Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, January 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Rain this afternoon, high 50. And then the weekend looks like this. Saturday, clouds in the morning, rain in the afternoon, high 45. And then Sunday, sun and clouds. It'll be better. Probably the best day of the weekend, the high 44. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 34, partly cloudy in Hempstead out on Long Island. 32 and clear in Kendall Park over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
There were 3 police-involved shootings in the city last night. ICE agents opened fire in Portland. It's a day in court for a Long Island man who poisoned his wife. Some sewer divers are busted in Brooklyn. And is it really okay to sing along with the actors at a Broadway musical? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. A bloodied, blade-wielding patient at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital shot and killed by cops last night after he barricaded himself inside a room with an elderly patient and a staff member, sending the Park Slope Medical Center into lockdown. Cops rushed to the hospital. They got a bunch of 911 calls. This was about 5:30 about this man inside the 8th floor hospital room. He was a patient, apparently, who had just been in the hospital for about a day. He was carrying a broken piece of a toilet seat, and he had used that apparently to cut himself and then tried to cut the other 2 people in his room. Now, thankfully, we're being told he did not do that. When police got to the room, they saw there was blood on him, blood splattered on the room. They told him to drop that piece of toilet seat.
When they got to the room, they saw blood all over the walls, floor, and splattered across the exterior of the door. The subject came into the door frame and displayed the bloody weapon.
Cops repeatedly demanded that he drop that weapon in this sort of tense back and forth that lasted just a couple minutes. He refused to drop the blade. They used a taser on him, and then they opened fire.
The subject then advanced towards the officers again, still with the weapon in his hand. Officers again deployed tasers, but those deployments were not effective. Officers then discharged their weapons, and the subject was struck. He was pronounced deceased a short time later.
The man, who has not been identified, was later pronounced dead. There were, of course, patients and families all over the hospital. Some were there visiting loved ones, and they talked about just what a scary scene it was last night.
Everybody was a little scared, got irate because we don't know what's going on. Nurses are scattered, police are running all over the place, so who's going to watch my mom?
And maybe you could hear that as she was talking. There were helicopters overhead, emergency vehicles spotted swarming the hospital in Park Slope in the aftermath of this shooting.
So I start running for my life, and I'm going that way, and then I just hear a bang.
I don't know how that can even happen.
All right, so that's the first of what were 3 deadly police-involved shootings last night. The second one involved a fake gun.
It started just before 11 p.m. with word of a hit and run at Bedford Street and 6th Avenue near Houston in the South Village. When officers caught up to the 37-year-old suspect, he had a gun
and pointed it at the officers.
Assistant Chief James McCarthy, the cops fired.
Shown on body-worn camera, asked him to drop the gun because they wanted to render him aid. He didn't say anything.
The man died at a hospital. The kicker for the cops involved:
an imitation firearm was recovered on the scene.
Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Okay, and it seems that there is some confusion about this third shooting, so I'm going to hold off on that story. WABC News Time 5:04. The FBI investigating the shooting of 2 people in Portland, Oregon by federal agents yesterday. Portland Police Chief Bob Day says officers responded to a shooting outside of a medical clinic. 6 minutes later, they got a call from a man who said he had been shot.
Our officers responded. We found a male and a female with apparent gunshot wounds. Officers applied a tourniquet and summoned emergency medical personnel. The patients were transported to local hospitals.
Homeland Security says agents were making a traffic stop on alleged Venezuelan gang members when the driver tried to run down an agent, and that's when the shots were fired. The chief there says it's a federal investigation. They're providing support to the FBI.
This is a federal investigation. It's being led by the FBI. We have been in touch with them. We are, in regular contact. This is their responsibility. We are simply providing that traditional investigative support and perimeter support, which is minimal. But I do want to make it clear that we are out there, but we are not involved in immigration.
Now, what we're being told, it was a border agent who opened fire on these 2. We do not know their condition this morning, but they were alive yesterday. Portland's mayor wants ICE to stop enforcement activities there until there's a full investigation into this shooting.
We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past.
Wilson says Portland's not a training ground for federal agents. He says the shooting is a consequence of President Trump's statement to bring the government full force on the city.
Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets.
Now, this shooting of what they're calling Venezuelan gang members comes just a day after the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis. The White House says the shooting in Minneapolis of that woman involves a large, sinister left-wing movement. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt telling reporters yesterday that law enforcement is under an organized attack and that the administration will not give in.
The Trump administration will redouble our efforts to get the worst of the worst. Criminal, illegal alien, killers, rapists, and pedophiles off of American streets.
The shooting happened in a neighborhood during an enforcement operation when a federal agent opened fire on Renee Nicole Good, who's an American citizen. Vice President J.D. Vance says the Minneapolis ICE-involved shooting was caused by this, what he calls, far-left lunatic network.
This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace.
And the vice president says the agent was seriously wounded with 36 stitches.
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Minnesota's governor says his state officials must be involved in the investigation into the ICE-involved shooting death in Minneapolis. Democrat Governor Tim Walz says the FBI has blocked the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension from joining the investigation into the shooting that ended in the death of Renee Nicole Good.
The only way we find the answers is a thorough investigation by nonpartisan professionals.
Now, Walz claims the Trump administration has already made up its mind that Good was at fault without getting all the facts, which he says amounts to an abuse of power.
People in positions of power have already passed judgment, from the president to the vice president to Kristi Noem, have stood and told you things that are verifiably false, verifiably inaccurate.
Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem pushing back against that, doubling down on her defense of the ICE agent involved in the shooting.
This officer took action to protect himself and to protect his fellow law enforcement.
She was at One World Trade Center here in the city yesterday, said the officer who fired was experienced, following lots of training. She again said the woman refused commands to get out of the vehicle, tried to harm the officer with his car.
But we've had almost over 100 times that these vehicles have been used to ram law enforcement enforcement officers and to do damage and to harm them. That when these individuals use their vehicles to try to ram our law enforcement and to put their lives in jeopardy, that law enforcement officer has to make a decision to protect his life and the individuals around him as well.
Noam did offer condolences to the Good family.
I asked everybody not to just pray for the officer, but also pray for the deceased family and her loved ones as well. It was a tragic situation.
And down in D.C. yesterday, Senator Ashley Moody, she's from Florida, she took to the Senate floor urging her colleagues to pass what's called the HALO Act, which would protect officers. Moody introduced the legislation back in November, citing the staggering numbers when it comes to violence against law enforcement.
I don't know how officers are able to do their jobs with people impeding them and getting in their faces as they're trying to focus on executing their duties.
She says assaults against ICE officers, they're up 1,300%, and death threats up 8,000%.
Encouraging people to get in the way of law enforcement officers trying to do their jobs, knowing how dangerous that is. Elected Democrat officials right now are using radical rhetoric and encouraging people in their cities and their states to harass and obstruct officers.
Now, the HALO Act is modeled after Florida's HALO Act, which establishes a 25-foot buffer zone around first responders to ensure their safety and allow them to do their jobs without interference or distraction. And then the rallies continued, not just here in New York, but across the country. Many New Yorkers say they've seen the video leading up to the shooting death. Everybody sees this video differently, by the way, of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. Here are New Yorkers weighing in on what they think is going on in that video.
There's no justification for what you didn't need to take. You could have busted the tires, shoot at the tires. Not at a heat. It's just crazy.
I mean, it's frightening. It's now, ridiculous.
Police officers, when they pull out their gun, it is to shoot at a person. It is not, that's in the movies when they take out the tires. People waiting to see what the investigation shows.
The details are still shady, but, still too early to tell. The truth will come out days after.
There were enough people there, and my understanding is there's multiple people who filmed it, so I assume that we'll have a good idea of what happened.
Everything comes out in the wash, doesn't it?
Yeah, as different narratives emerge, so do different opinions. These people in Times Square.
I haven't seen the video, but the people who have seem pretty conclusive.
She tried to kill an ICE officer, so she got what she deserved.
The video is clear. If you look at the other officers, they weren't shocked that he took out his gun. His life was not in threat. He could have stepped away from the vehicle.
It is amazing when you hear that, right? I mean, such differing views on what was taking place during that video and in that shooting in Minneapolis on Wednesday. WABC News Time, 5:12. Governor Hochul proposing free pre-K across New York State and free child care now for 2-year-olds.
The governor stood with Mayor Zohran Mamdani to announce her proposals for the upcoming State of the State address that she says would be paid for using existing funds for the first 2 years.
And if we can take this stress point off the plate of all the other struggles they have, my friends, then we are making New York State and New York City the best places in the nation to live.
The free 2-year-old child care program would start next school year in high-needs neighborhoods and then expand citywide in the coming years. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
All right, there has been very high flu activity in New York City for weeks, but now health officials are reporting some good news.
Over the last 2 weeks, cases have declined, but we're not out of the woods yet. Flu seasons are unpredictable, and the virus continues to circulate at very high levels.
That's the acting city health commissioner, Michelle Moore, says there was just 12,000 flu cases reported for the week ending January 3rd.
For the week ending December 20th, there were more than 32,000 positive flu cases in New York City. That's the highest weekly total the health department has reported since 2005.
Dr. Moore says more than 128,000 New Yorkers have tested positive for the flu virus since the influenza season began back in October, noting that 54% of the cases have involved kids. She's urging parents to get their kids vaccinated, despite the federal government no longer recommending that every child get a flu shot. 5:14, President Trump says it was not a hard decision to order the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro.
Democrats wanted him and Republicans wanted him, and nobody had what it takes to get him or didn't want to get him. I don't know. Something happened.
That was the president in an interview with Sean Hannity, Fox News last night. He says Venezuela's current leadership has indicated it wants to cooperate with the U.S. since Maduro's capture. He also credited the U.S. forces for the amazing attack, saying it took place in the middle of a fort.
This house was in the middle of a fort with thousands of people and soldiers and everything else, and we went right into the middle of a fort. Who would think you could do that and not lose anybody?
And the president continues to say the capture of Maduro will benefit the world.
It means lower oil prices all over the world, which is great for everybody. It means lower oil prices for America.
And he was asked last night if he'd accept the Nobel Peace Prize that Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has offered to give him now. She said, here, you can have my prize.
I understand she's coming in next week sometime. And I look forward to saying hello to her, and I've heard that she wants to do that. That would be a great honor.
I wonder if he'll take it. All right, in a moment, we'll go over to Ukraine, where there's some new security guarantees and maybe another chance for peace between Russia and Ukraine. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Friday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here in Glendale last night, where the Miami Hurricanes rallied to stun the Ole Miss Rebels in last night's Fiesta Bowl semifinal matchup. The final score 31-27 to send the Hurricanes to the national championship game to face either Indiana or Oregon. Carson Beck scrambled for a 3-yard touchdown with 18 seconds left, and Miami will head back home for a shot at its first national title since 2001. The 10th-ranked Hurricanes, they didn't play in the Atlantic Coast Conference title game and were a somewhat controversial college football playoff pick. There you go. At least outside of South Florida, you clearly have proved they belong with that big win last night. So tonight, you get your second leg of the semifinal matchups here. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. It's the 5-seed Oregon Ducks against the 1-seed Indiana. Indiana, they're 3.5-point favorites for the Hoosiers. College football playoff semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl for the right to face the Hurricanes in next Monday night's national championship game. Looking forward to this one tonight. NFL wildcard weekend is all set and ready. It being Friday, we'll look ahead here. Tomorrow, 4:30 p.m., 5-seed Rams, 10.5-point favorites at the 4-seed Panthers in the NFC. The 7-seed Packers at 8 p.m. tomorrow. They're 1.5-point favorites at the 2-seed Bears. Then comes Sunday at 1 p.m., the 6-seed Bills. They're 1.5-point favorites in Jacksonville against the 3-seed Jaguars. 4:30 p.m. kickoff for the 3-seed Eagles at home. 5.5-point home.
You going
favorites.
to that game?
No, I'm not going to that game. Do you know how much playoff tickets are if you're an Eagles fan?
How much are they?
$1,000.
Oh, you're kidding?
Probably north. Yeah.
Like face value $1,000 or
no,
secondary market?
Yeah, secondary market. Oh. But it's I don't hold that sort of cash, if you will, normally. I didn't win any of my fantasy leagues this year, so it's not like I came into any, recent piles of cash.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's
so for you will be sitting at the Eagles bar with beer in hand.
I will be on and off of a bar stool, yes, for about 4 consecutive hours. At 8 p.m. on Sunday, the 7-seed Chargers, they go up against the 2-seed Patriots. Patriots are 3.5-point favorites, and come Monday night, 8:15 p.m., 5-seed Texans, 3-point favorites in Pittsburgh against the 4-seed Steelers. Quickly here in the NHL last night, your final from MSG, the Rangers get beat up by the Sabres 5-1 out in Pittsburgh. The Devils lost to the Penguins 4-1, and out in Nashville, the Islanders, they fell in a shootout, I should say, to the Predators 2-1 in 2 basketball games in the NBA. Looking forward to tonight, 7:30 p.m. tip-off for the Nets. They'll welcome in the LA Clippers, and at 9 p.m. the Knicks will be out in Phoenix against the Suns, I should say. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time, 5:19. U.S. is backing security guarantees for Ukraine. Correspondent Danielle Humarjan reports that Ukraine's president providing more details following an international summit that took place in Paris.
Confirming earlier today that the bilateral security guarantees document between Ukraine and the U.S. is ready to be finalized between the leaders. Ukraine also understands the U.S. will speak with Russia and is awaiting to find out whether Moscow is ready to end the war.
Now, what we've learned is at the summit, French President Emmanuel Macron says the U.S. will lead a truce monitoring mechanism with European allies, which would likely involve drones, sensors, and satellites, but not troops. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff was at the summit. He says the guarantees are meant to deter further attacks and to make sure Russia attacks do not happen again.
The latest development follows that third meeting with the U.S. side in Paris over the course of 2 days. Present at that meeting, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Ambassador to France Charles Kushner, and his son Jared Kushner. Earlier this week, the UK, France, and Ukraine signed a declaration of intent, pledging to deploy troops to Ukraine if and when a peace deal is reached. The Kremlin this morning repeating a warning that any Western troops deployed in Ukraine will be considered a legitimate target.
Okay, we've been here before thinking there might be peace breaking out between Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine's president says this security guarantee is different. He's ready to sign off on this document, ready to be finalized, I guess, here in Washington, down in Washington, at the White House. 521, protests spreading across Iran, with President Trump renewing his warning of going after the regime if they resort to killing more people. Correspondent Ishan Gerg reports that a complete internet shutdown was imposed last night after new calls for mass protests went out.
Videos verified by local media show large crowds of anti-government protesters marching through Iran's capital Tehran's street on Thursday, some calling for the removal of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Now, these protests, they started in late December over the country's worsening economy and the plummeting value of its currency. Over 40 people have been killed since these protests started. 521, let's bring it back home out to Salt Lake City, where the police department there say it was a fight that broke out in a parking lot of a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints meeting house before Wednesday's deadly shooting that killed 2, injured 6 others. The shooting wasn't random. It was not directed, they say, at any religion.
There were these individuals were known to each other. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Now, they have not made any arrests. Salt Lake police investigating, struggling to get information from people who were at the scene, they said.
There are people involved in this incident who have been less than cooperative, and we're still working to identify all who were involved in the incident and their roles in the matter.
Now, this took place as a funeral was set to take place, so police trying to run down every single lead.
Our focus now is bringing all those involved to justice, and we will do that, and our detectives are working overtime to resolve these issues. There is indication that there were individuals at the scene that were potentially involved in gang activity. We don't know the cause for the violence.
Yeah, so far, no arrests. 523. Down in Washington, Vice President J.D. Vance announcing a new Assistant Attorney General position whose sole job will be investigating government fraud across the country.
And we think this is the critical piece at the Department of Justice to really ramp this fraud investigation into high gear.
Vance told reporters at the White House yesterday that the initial focus of this person will be to investigate the alleged Medicaid fraud in Minnesota and then move nationwide and find fraud elsewhere.
This person is going to be part of a very broad interagency White House that's being led from the President of the United States on down. Going to prosecute and investigate their fraud and their violence more aggressively than it has ever been investigated in the United States of America.
The event says this assistant AG will also look into networks of fraud that are connected to terrorists. Yesterday marked the 15th anniversary of the deadly Southern Arizona shooting at an event that was hosted by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords.
On January 8th, 2011, a gunman opened fire at a Tucson grocery store where the event was being held. 6 people were killed, including a 9-year-old girl, and over a dozen were wounded. Among the injured was Giffords, who was shot in the head. On social media today, she said in part, she thinks of those who did die every day. I'm Monica Nelson.
WABC News Time 524. NASA says the International Space Station crew going to make an early return to Earth because of a medical situation with one of its crew members.
I've come to the decision that it's in the best interest of our astronauts to return Crew 11 ahead of their planned departure.
That's NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, who says the unnamed crew member is stable. The agency had already postponed a spacewalk that was scheduled for yesterday because of the medical issue. The space agency says it plans to bring the crew home within days.
Within the coming days, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft will depart the International Space Station with Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Mike Fink, Kimya Yui from JAXA and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos and safely return them to Earth. We expect to provide a further update within the next 48 hours as to the anticipated undock and reentry timeline.
Now, NASA would not disclose the name of the crew member or the ailment, citing health privacy issues. 525, the IRS says it will start accepting your tax returns on January 26th.
Federal returns for 2025 will need to be filed by April 15th in order to avoid penalties and interest. Most taxpayers will also be expected to pay their taxes if they owe any by that date. Those expecting a refund, though, could see a little more this year. Tax experts say the IRS did not update withholding tables for employers last year, which show how much to take from workers' paychecks. That could mean bigger refunds for certain people. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
525, the federal food pyramid has been flipped upside down by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Everybody's responding to this. Dr. Christopher Gardner, he's professor of medicine at Stanford University, says flipping the pyramid is the Trump administration's effort to make it radical.
So we did have a pyramid. It didn't work very well. We abandoned it years ago. So back in 2011, we moved to a plate, which made more sense.
Now, I remember that pyramid, learning about it in school when I was a kid and going, really? I'm supposed to follow this? Gardner says a lot of recommendations do carry over from the past, including more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, not refined grains, stop eating added sugars and sodium, highly processed foods. Does that leave anything? I don't know. The new dietary guidelines are part of the Make America Healthy Again initiative. It also puts meat and dairy products at the top, along with fruits and vegetables.
A lot of these are recommendations that carry over from the past. More fruits and vegetables, whole grains, not refined grains, stop eating so much added sugar.
Yeah, I think I just said all that.
Highly processed food.
So they're not sure how people will follow this. I mean, were you following the food pyramid before? And they say they want to make it as easy to follow.
They recommend 2 to 4 servings of whole grain per day. Okay. They put that at the very bottom.
What does that all mean, though, when they tell you 2 to 4 servings?
Seemingly the smallest type of thing. Does that mean everything above it should be more than 2 to 4 servings per day? That would be a lot.
Yeah, it's already confusing.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, January 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. We'll see some rain this afternoon. Warm, high 50. Saturday looks like this. Clouds in the morning, rain in the afternoon, high 45. The better day is Sunday, where it'll be a mix of sun and clouds, high 44. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 34, partly cloudy in Hempstead, out on Long Island. It's 32 and clear in Kendall Park over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time, 540. Imagine hating your wife so much that you poison her to death. A Long Island man accused of poisoning his estranged wife was arraigned on murder charges yesterday. Prosecutors say he hid in his wife's home back in October, waited until she was alone before poisoning her with cyanide. Here's Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly.
This is one of the most horrifying cases I have ever seen in my career. Basically, he seared her lungs. She took a breath and the cyanide and just burns your lungs.
Yeah, they can't throw away this guy behind bars for long enough. The Nassau DA outlining the details of this murder on Larch Drive in Herricks, which is this quiet street where prosecutors say 53-year-old Asif Quashari committed the murder, which was so horrific. He waited till his wife dropped off her kids at school. That's when he allegedly placed the cyanide on a rag and suffocated her. He did not, by the way, and has not admitted to the crime.
His statements were very self-serving. Couldn't be me. I was someplace else. That type of thing.
Qureshi's defense attorney, Stanley Rubin, he was with his client in the court yesterday.
Mr. Qureshi is presumed innocent, and he has vigorously entered a plea of not guilty on all counts of the indictment.
Qureshi being held without bail on second-degree murder charges. From Long Island, let's go out to the Bronx, where cops still searching for two men responsible for mugging a 10-year-old boy in the Allerton section of the Bronx last week. The duo approached the boy. This was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on White Plains Road. They shoved him to the ground. They took his hat and then grabbed $45 from him. The men then ran from the scene, running on White Plains Road. Neighbors say, who does this to a kid?
Grown men who are robbing a 10-year-old child, I hope you go home and realize how disgusting of a human being you are to be doing something like that.
Yeah, you're right about that. Thankfully, the child is okay. Of course, traumatized by being mugged, but he wasn't physically hurt.
Get a job, or they do Uber Eats and stuff now. They got a lot of people who's doing the bike deliveries. There's easy ways to get money now.
Yeah, you don't need to mug a 10-year-old. One man was seen wearing a black sweater with the word "Scream" on it, dark-colored pants. Police are actually circulating a picture of these two, and we'll put it up at WABCRadio.com, hoping maybe someone will recognize him.
I have a little brother. Oh, my God. I have a little brother, too. I can't imagine him coming home to me saying that he was robbed, attacked.
Now, this mugging of a 10-year-old comes as city data showed that robberies were on the rise in the Allerton neighborhood, up 50% from this time last year. 543, out to New Jersey Turnpike. This is just an awful story. Someone or somehow, a rock was thrown at a school bus on the turnpike Wednesday, shattering a window and seriously injuring a young child on the bus. It happened about 2 o'clock in the northbound lanes of the turnpike, right near exit 70A. That's the Leonia Teaneck exit. The bus was on its way back from a school trip to the Liberty Science Center. The kids are from a school called Yeshivat Noam. They use my name. I should probably trademark it. It's a Jewish school in Paramus. They were transporting these third-grade students back. Here's to the school in Teaneck. Here's the mayor of Teaneck.
There was a rock that went through a bus window and severely injured a child. So that part's hard to imagine.
Yeah, so we're being told this 8-year-old student suffered a skull fracture, is currently receiving medical treatment, will likely need surgery. Now, here's a dad who had a daughter on this very same bus.
She's okay. She's very upset. She's shook, but she's physically okay. But a friend of hers is not okay.
Now, this is a very odd place to throw a rock. If you know this highway, it's wide. There's 4 lanes on either side. Let me just think about that. I think it's 8 lanes across, something like that. I mean, it's a huge swath of highway that leads right into the George Washington Bridge. So now the question is, did somebody seek out to do this? Did the rock come from somewhere else? And then, of course, were they aiming for a bus with Jewish kids on board? Now, there's nothing on the school bus that said it was coming from a Jewish school, so they just don't know a whole lot about this yet.
We hope it wasn't intentional, but if it was, it's the worst feeling in the world to think that someone would put a child's life or children's lives in danger.
Yeah, so police investigating the incident as aggravated assault. They're just asking anybody who may have witnessed it or has dash camera footage to give them a holler. 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Eller.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Starting Glendale, the Miami Hurricanes rallied to stun the Ole Miss Rebels in last night's Fiesta Bowl semifinal matchup. The final score 31-27 to send the Hurricanes to the national championship game to face either Indiana or Oregon. Carson Beck scrambled for a 3-yard touchdown with 18 seconds left, and Miami will head back home for a shot at its first national title since 2001. The 10th-ranked Hurricanes didn't play in the Atlantic Coast Conference title game and were somewhat a controversial CFP pick, at least outside of South Florida. They clearly have approved they belong with that big win last night. So tonight you do get that semifinal, 7:30 p.m. between Oregon and Indiana. The Oregon Ducks, a 5 seed, Indiana Hoosiers, the 1 seed there. Hoosiers 3.5-point favorites for the right to play Miami in that national championship game coming up next Monday night. NFL wildcard weekend, as another weekend full of football comes your way, and it's the first round of the playoffs tomorrow. 4:30 p.m. kickoff for the 5-seed Rams in the NFC, 10.5-point favorites at the 4-seed Panthers. 8 p.m. tomorrow night, the 7-seed Packers, 1.5-point favorites at the 2-seed Bears. Come Sunday, early afternoon, 1 p.m. kickoff for the 6-seed Bills, 1.5-point favorites in Jacksonville against the 3-seed Jaguars. And then at 4:30, the Eagles, 3-seed in the NFC, 5.5-point favorites at home against the 6-seed San Francisco 49ers. 8 p.m. Sunday night, 7-seed Chargers go up against the 2-seed Patriots in New England. Pats there, 3.5-point favorites. And come Monday night, your final leg of this wild card weekend, 8:15 p.m. kickoff for the 5-seed Texans, 3-point favorites in Pittsburgh against the 4-seed Steelers. And last night on the ice, all three local teams coming up with
these
L's.
games like on, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
that's fine.
Are they like on Amazon? Do I have to go find them? They're not like on the normal networks, like they're on Amazon Prime or Paramount or something like that?
I got to double check. If you go on ESPN, it'll tell you where you can find it. Yeah, if you have NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV, which I know not everybody has. It's an extension of YouTube TV that you have to pay for. But if you have that, you should be able to get every single game.
Otherwise, you got to I remember last year you had to switch from one streaming to another.
You might have to
get it.
You might have to. I'll have to investigate.
Okay.
I'll let you know during the morning show.
First game is on Fox.
Oh, it is.
Okay, there you go.
Good.
So that'll be
Green Bay, Chicago, Prime.
Okay. So never mind. You're going to need Prime.
And yes, and then
I'll give you my password if you need it.
Sunday, CBS, Fox, and NBC Peacock.
NBC Peacock?
Oh, no.
So wait,
is it on NBC or just Peacock?
Right.
I see NBC, but
and
Peacock underneath.
Okay.
Maybe it's NBC.
Oh, maybe it's NBC and Peacock.
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope so.
If you feel like making yourself crazy.
Yeah. 3 L's last night on the ice. Rangers lose 5-1 to the Sabres. Devils, they lose 4-1 to the Penguins, and the Islanders, they lost in a shootout 2-1 to the Predators. Nets and Knicks both back in action tonight. 7:30 p.m. tip-off for the Nets at home against the Clippers. 9 p.m. Knicks get going in Phoenix against the Suns. That's your sports Noam. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's see. Governor Hochul proposing free pre-K across New York State and free childcare for 2-year-olds in New York City to strengthen the city's existing free 3K program.
And if we can take this stress point off the plate of all the other struggles they have, my friends, then we are making New York State and New York City the best places in the nation to live.
The governor standing next to Mayor Mamdani to announce her proposals for the upcoming State of the State address that she says would be paid for using existing funds for the first 2 years. Over in New Jersey, schools are going to go cell phone free. Governor Murphy signing legislation yesterday implementing a statewide ban in K-12 classrooms, which would go in effect next year.
And I believe in the years to come, this proposal will be considered just as sensible as many laws that we take for granted today. What comes to mind? Requiring cars to come equipped with seatbelts or prohibiting smoking on airplanes.
Yeah, I agree with him on this. I just see what cell phones do to kids. Several schools have already gone phone-free systems across the state, but now everybody else will be forced to do so.
Students are more focused, they're less anxious, and they're socializing and laughing with each other, not through a screen, but in the hallways and classrooms.
Yeah, and Governor Murphy pointing to this shocking increase in the number of young Americans struggling with mental health issues. A lot of it, they believe, tied to the fact that they're staring at their phones all day.
So let's face the facts. This growing youth mental health crisis did not appear out of thin air. It has only grown worse as smartphones have become more ubiquitous.
All right,
with this legislation, New Jersey is going to set a national standard for protecting our students.
All right, doesn't mean to step on you there, Governor. Well, other school systems across the country, including New York, have already implemented phone bans. This one will begin in September. 5:51. This is just an odd story out of Brooklyn. People trying to figure out. Police, I imagine, will tell us more when they do know more. Police say they've charged 2 men with trespassing, one with possession of burglary tools, after they broke into a manhole in Dyker Heights Wednesday night. It's the second time time on that street in as many months. So people are saying, wait, what are they looking for? Are they like looking for for like metal of some sort? What's going on? Why are they jumping into the local sewer there?
It's scary. It's petrifying. It's scary.
You got to be pretty brazen to come to the same place a month later to do the same exact thing. Like, apparently there were no consequences for his actions because he's back.
Well, it's not clear it's the same two people. This has happened before in the exact same neighborhood. Wilmer Rodriguez, he faces criminal trespassing charges. Robinson DeVell faces trespassing charges as well. Police would not confirm if either of the men were arrested were the same ones who were seen breaking into the same manhole cover back in December. Now, neighbors say, come on, what were they looking for? That's an important part of the story.
That's the next step. What were they doing down there? And will we have those answers next?
I'm just glad they're locked up. Hopefully they're not doing anything crazy down there.
We could have just been coming home. It's a residential neighborhood. It's a safe area. This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, a strange story. And when we reached out to police to find out what was going on, we have not heard back. A New York judge has denied Harvey Weinstein's request for a new trial, dismissing claims that jurors were pressured during deliberations.
A former Hollywood producer was convicted of sexually assaulting Mimi Haley, a former production assistant on Project Runway in 2006. Weinstein's defense argued that two jurors felt pressured to convict, but Judge Curtis Farber ruled that the court adequately addressed these complaints. Weinstein's lawyers also accused one juror of having a personal agenda and influencing others, which he claimed compromised the trial's fairness. Despite the allegations, Judge Farber found no basis to overturn the conviction. Weinstein, who is 73, remains in custody at Rikers Island in New York City. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Student athletes at a high school in Queens, they've won both state and national championships without ever setting foot on a field. Their sport is competitive video gaming, a program that seems to be growing in schools nationwide. This was at the Arts, Health, Robotics, and Technology High School. And this discipline is you can study gaming and I guess essentially maybe someday be an engineer. But in this case, it's actually playing esports. And so they actually train for this thing and then they compete against other schools. And so the Health, Arts, Robotics, and Technology High School is one of the best teams now in the nation.
Right now we're learning triangle congruency and just congruent statement.
Right now we're doing scrimmages. We have them practicing Monday through Friday, 3 hours a day. We have varsity, junior varsity, and clubs, so everybody can learn from each other.
I mean, that's amazing that this is actually a sport. Esports coach Jordan Jean says the program blends computer science and software engineering, and that's why it's become so popular.
See an increase in enrollment, engagement, attendance. There is a buzz about what's happening here in Cambria Heights.
Yeah, that's the principal of the school. Now, some parents questioned whether this should be really counted as a sport.
I was very skeptical at first. They are a team. They all move together inside and outside of esports.
Yeah, and students say the esports has given them a reason to hold their heads high and show up at school, especially now that they've won these championships.
I was a very quiet person. I never used to want to talk to anyone. But this year, when esports started, I was speaking to almost everyone.
It's basically helping me uplift myself and bring everybody up with me.
Yeah, as my mother used to say, it's a different world now. All right, 5:55. We'll end with this story. Did you see? This showed up in my TikTok feed, so I did a little investigation. There was this video of this confrontation during the intermission at the performance of Mamma Mia last week, the Broadway show. It went viral on social media. In the video, a man can be seen yelling at fellow audience members for being disruptive throughout the show's first act. Now, apparently the women behind him were singing along with the cast of Mamma Mia, which I would be annoyed by as well. So when the lights went up, the men confronted the women, and of course everybody pulled out their cameras to watch and tape this confrontation.
I need a security over here now. Because these ladies and this whole section's gonna vouch for it. You wanna make a scene? I'm gonna make a scene. Mess with my teenage nieces again. Where is their security guard? I need security right here.
All right, so this guy who's now been called Uncle because he was there with his young nieces taking them to the show. You know, you pay a lot of money to see a Broadway show. You don't want to see people behind you singing. I sort of get where he's coming from. So the confrontation sparking the conversation about theater etiquette. The Security people came up and they tried to deal with the situation. Here were some people who were sitting nearby.
I never heard a whole theater get silenced like that quickly.
They were singing along, rather loudly, getting a little rambunctious, and they were asked nicely by this man, at first to please stop. They responded back, with some expletives. Not a very nice response.
Yeah, so the security guard, I think, did the right thing. He told these women who had been singing loudly behind them and who had been obnoxious to get the hell out of the theater, the Broadway theater.
The man returned to his seat, very apologetic. We saw the woman come back and say something, we have to leave. Apparently we have to leave because we were singing.
Yeah, because you're obnoxious. So even the actress, one of the actresses, Carly Sokolov, she plays Rosie in the musical. She saw the dust up afterwards online and she posted, I could hear the women singing during Money Money, which is one of the songs during the show. And she said she was bothered by it. So Broadway goers, they were asked, were they justified in kicking these people out and should be able to sing along with the Broadway cast when you go see a musical?
Just be a decent human being. There's no reason to ever yell at somebody for being too loud. Just take it in stride.
Have fun, but if you're overdoing it, then I guess that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think they were right to kick them out.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.